Hello everyone. Let us look at the morph transition, animation, and the zoom effect. We'll do the easiest one to begin with. I will insert a shape. And let us say we want to create some animation to be able to demonstrate an idea. Maybe we want to show how this one shape can become larger. So I will right click and then duplicate the slide. And on the second one, we want to manually move it to the right, make this a little larger. And I also want to change the color. Now on the second one, on transitions, we can select the second option that we have, which is morph. And as you can see, this happens. If we look at this full screen, let me set up my screen once. So if you look at this full screen, you can see that this is how it works. This is this beautiful effect. Without the morph transition, if you had done this manually, it would have taken you quite a bit of effort, but it's so easy to do it with morph. Let's try to do that one more time, but this time we will use the manual animation. So I go to animations, and what I want to do here is I want to add an animation, which is lines. So that's the motion path, which allows us to shift from one point to the next point. So there are 4 animations available. We have entrance, how an object appears, emphasis, how the object changes the color or the size, exit, how it disappears, and then finally the motion path. So I'm going to choose the line, and the green is the starting point. I will choose the red one and I'll move it here to the right like this. Let's see how that works. If I open up the animation pane, you notice that it is moving, but it's probably a bit too fast. So I will double click here, and then in the timing, we can change this to slow. And now you notice it's a lot better. But then the color isn't changing, right? So we add another animation where we say that we select object color. And on this, you notice that we have a 1 and a 2. That means that there are 2 mouse clicks required. The first mouse click moves it, and the second mouse click changes the color. So we want to right click and say start with previous. And now you notice that as it is moving from left to right, the color changes as well. But what if I say right click and start after previous? Now you notice there's a small delay that happens. If you look at this part with the blue and the yellow rectangle, now you notice that when I play, it moves, and the moment it stops, then the color changes, but it doesn't require 2 clicks. Now, if I select it and I move it a little before, let's see, start with previous, but there is a small delay that happens. So I'm going to go to timing, and I will say there's a delay of maybe 1 second. Now you notice that the color change will happen in between the movement. Let's have a look. So I will select the first one, play from, and now you notice that somewhere in the center is where the color starts to change. So I hope you get a sense of how it works. It's not a very difficult interface, but then it's very nuanced and it requires a lot of practice and experimentation to get it right. For example, I can also change the duration to slow. That means the color change. And now you notice the color change doesn't happen immediately. It takes a little bit of time to happen. What about the size? Let me select add animation and choose the size, which should be grow and shrink. So it grows. Let me make this start with previous. And then we can also choose the size that it grows to. So it says 150%, but then I can change that to, let's say, 135%, for example. And then I can also decide if we want it to grow horizontal, vertical, or both. For now, I'm choosing both of them. And let's see the final result. Here we go. Now this is so much better than the morph transition because it gives us utmost flexibility. I have control over every single thing. Of course, morph transition is not a replacement for this. It's only used for very simple animations, but then it's good to have both options with you. Let's do one more example. So I have these points with me. So there are these 5 points, everyone, like this. What I would like to do is to go to animations one more time. We will add an animation and say appear. Now, when I go to effect options, we can say as one object all at once. But then why is it not giving us a choice to show the 5 points one by one? So let me undo the animation. First, we will apply bullet points. So I go to home and I apply bullets to all of them. What bullets these are doesn't really matter. But now see the difference. Now when I go to animations, add animation and appear, now in effect options, we can say as one object all at once or by paragraph. Now if I choose by paragraph, that 1 is getting broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which is great. Now when I click on this double arrow, you can see that there are 5 clicks required and each click will show me one of the points. As you can see, when I click the first time, the first point appears, second time the second appears, and so on and so forth. But we also want to change the color. So maybe we want to start with a black color, and we'll in fact change that from black to something else. Let's make it a blue like this. And the idea here is that after the first point appears, the next one will come, but the first one should become de-highlighted. It should become a little gray in color, for example. So I will again select all the 4 points, and on animations, we will say that we would like to desaturate. Let's give that a shot. So now you notice that the color is changing, or rather the object font color is desaturating. You can even try other options here. So I also have the option for lighten. So you notice it's becoming lighter. And then we can also select object color, which allows me to change it from one color to another color. Let's stick with this. Now here also you notice we have these 5 points, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 5 of them. What we would like to do, watch carefully, is to first choose the color we want. So I'm going to right click and then say effect options, and we will change this from orange to a gray like this. But I don't want all the 5 points to come and then the color to change. So I'm going to make them alternate. So that means that this comes below here. And then as you can see, I'm just moving it very smartly. We don't really need the last one, or let the last one be there like this. Then we say that there's no click required for the de-highlighting. So start with previous. So before I run it, I hope you can visualize what will happen. The first point appears, which is okay. But when the second point appears, the first one will become de-highlighted. It will convert to a gray color, and then the next point will come, and the same pattern repeats every time. So now when I go full screen, right now nothing is there. When I click, the first point comes. When I click the second time, the first one is becoming de-highlighted, and then the next one is coming. And I hope you see how this is working. Beautiful, right? In fact, this one can be a start on click. So this way we get this result, right? Of course, there is so much variety that you have when it comes to animations, but I've given you a basic idea. Make sure to try this out. There's a lot that you can experiment with. For example, in animation, you can have a trigger, which means that you can have a shape or an image, and by clicking on that, the animations will run. Even in the options that you have here, there's a little bit of options that you have. For example, I can have a repetition, so the animation keeps on repeating a certain number of times. Plus, what you see here might not seem like a lot, but the more you experiment with it, you will realize it's a very deep topic. I also want to show you how we can animate a chart. So let me take one of my Excel files. All right. So here we have an Excel. Let me keep this on the same window as the PowerPoint. And I would like to take this chart. So it's just a normal chart like any other. Control C, come back, and I do a Control V. What we're going to do now is to go to add animation and add an animation on the chart. So when I go to add animation and up here, I'm just selecting the first one. Nothing happens. But now in effect options, I have the choice to break it as per the series, category, element in series and element in category. So if I choose by series, now you notice that on the first click, only the X, Y axis and the title and the grid line come. On the next one, the columns appear. If I change that to category, this is very interesting. Now, every single one of these columns will appear one after the other. And this is fantastic because you can really control the flow. So from a storytelling point of view, you can talk about maybe the first 8, take some audience questions, and then continue with the rest. Otherwise, if you show all of them at once, then there really is no narrative that you can build into it because the audience has a view of everything. To be able to control the audience view is where the animations come in really handy. The final thing I want to show you is, and I will do this on a new PowerPoint, is how we can use our zoom effect. So I have a PowerPoint here which has 15 slides in it. I'm also going to save it on my desktop. You will find this file in the resources folder, everyone. Let's call this the zoom effect. Perfect. So we can see there are 15 of these slides that we have. We have the cover slide, the idea, the industry outlook, the market, the services that we are offering, the specialized offerings, the business model, the sales forecast, the key timeline goal, the team members, business ratios, major competitors, required funding, the use of funds, and a thank you. So I want to break this entire 15 slides into maybe 4 sections. To do this, I will first go to insert and then select zoom. And then I don't have the section available because I have not created sections, but let's see what happens. I'm going to create a summary zoom. And now I can decide how many sections we want. So maybe I want a section which is the cover. Then I want one on the market, one on the business model, one on the timeline goal, and then one on the business ratios. Now see what happens. We have selected 5 slides, and these 5 slides will become the first slide of the section. So when I click on insert, it creates a new slide for me where we have these 5 slides that we have selected. And you also notice that these sections have been created here. I'll be covering in a different video how to create these sections manually as well. But for now, it has been done automatically. How does it work? When I go full screen, you are presenting and you're only showing this slide. And then you can either click next or you can use your mouse and you can click on any one of these chapters or sections. So let's say I click on the very first one. So I click, it zooms in. So you get this beautiful effect. Then I go to the next slide and the next one, and then it zooms out to the summary. So this is a beautiful way of presentation. It is still linear, but then you have a choice. I mean, you can always jump to any one of the sections if you want to. So play around with this a little bit. You can see that we also have a slide zoom for one slide. Or if you have already created the sections, then you can select section zoom. It's not difficult. It's just that you will really have to look at the storytelling side of it so that to the user or the viewer, the client who you're presenting to, it should not be overwhelming. The purpose of doing anything on PowerPoint, whether it's adding an image or changing a color, an animation, or the zoom, is to ease the message for the user. If it makes it overwhelming and it makes it more difficult, then it defeats the purpose, right? But at least the basic summary zoom that I showed you is definitely something you should use. But then how many slides should you have in each section? How many sections should you have? There really is no correct answer to that. So some bit of experimentation is important.